What's going on, ladies and gents, boys and girls, guardians of all ages? Joker back again, once again, and another week, another twab. This one is kind of meaty and filled to the brim with good news. Yay! All of which center around the Tiger engine. And while they're not scrapping the Tiger engine, it seems that the last year has been spent overhauling it. And for those of you who don't know, because every video is somebody's first, the Tiger engine is the development tools used to create Destiny. Now, we'll never likely know the totality of the nightmare that is the Tiger engine, but it's made fairly apparent in this twab that the Tiger engine is basically held together with paper mache and bad choices. And if I had to speculate, this likely stems from Bungie choosing the easier short-term solutions during the development of Destiny 1 and Destiny 2 all the way up through Shadowkeep because they didn't realize what the franchise was evolving into. On top of that, there seems to be a very pervasive mentality throughout Bungie where, just ship it now and we'll patch it later. And while all of these changes are fantastic, the fact that it's taken Bungie 6 years to finally not only understand what they want from Destiny, but what Destiny is and how to execute on creating and implementing systems necessary to facilitate that vision does display a startling lack of direction. All we can do now is hope that Bungie really does have a roadmap and the alleged tools they need, the groundwork set within the engine, laid to achieve the vision that they've set out to create, and the ability to execute on it far better than they have for the last few years. You can have the best tools in the world, you can have a roadmap, but if management doesn't know how to execute on any of those plans, it doesn't fucking matter. With all of that said, let's just dive into the meat and potatoes of the twab. Talking tech, preparing for Beyond Light. With Beyond Light on fast approach, it's time to shift our twab gears a little. Today we'll be talking through some of the back-end changes that will be coming to Destiny 2 on November 10th. To guide us through this process, we'll be passing the mic to Destiny Engineering Director David Aldridge. When Destiny 2 launched 3 years ago, we had no idea that in 2020 we'd announce a new trilogy of expansions, among other 2020 surprises we didn't expect. At the time, we thought Destiny 2's arc would look a lot more like Destiny 1's, a couple of expansions and then a sequel. Now this is super interesting for a couple of reasons because it means it's not too terribly unlikely that Destiny 3 was undergoing some form of development over the last couple of years. And I would not be surprised in the least if Beyond Light, The Witch Queen, and Lightfall were basically Destiny 3, Destiny 3's first expansion, and Destiny 3's second expansion kind of remixed in their scope and scale toned down for Destiny 2. And I do think that there will be a scope and scale toning down because these are now just expansions, not one new game and a bunch of other expansions. I also think that a lot of this content that was perhaps created for Destiny 3 will be utilized in different seasonal content models. For example, we know that Trials of Osiris isn't getting an update until Season 13. Now that may get pushed back to Season 14, but it does demonstrate that they're not planning on doing anything with some of these more core playlists until after the release of Beyond Light. Now, whether this will be included in the Season Pass model, or whether these will be free updates, still remains to be seen. The other thing that hints at, if not outright states, that Beyond Light has been in development for a long time, or at least aspects of Beyond Light have been in development for a long time, is Europa. Europa is a piece of content that has been in some stage of development, and this is no exaggeration, for nearly a decade, as we have concept art of Europa and lore of Europa coming all the way back from Destiny 1. The point that I'm getting at is hopefully there's more to Beyond Light than what Bungie has announced, you know, given how long it's hopefully been in development, but the article continues. They then go on to talk about the lessons they learned in the transition between Destiny 1 and Destiny 2. For the sake of brevity, I'm going to go ahead and skip that part and talk about the conclusions that they came to. When we evaluated those lessons, we decided not to pursue a Destiny 3, but instead reinvest everything in Destiny 2 and make it all that it can be. To support that strategy, we've made several tech investments to help us sustainably evolve the game for years to come, and some of those investments are arriving in Beyond Light. Many of these changes are under the hood and won't affect your experience, except insofar as they help us deliver you more and better Destiny in the future. But some may result in neat improvements, curious behavior differences, or bugs. That means on November 10th, some places and things will feel a little like sliders. only 90s kids will get this. David, that show was fucking legit. But moving forward. So, we'd like to give you a rundown of some of the changes and possible side effects. We've shifted our mission scripting model to run on our physics host instead of the mission host. In the long run, this change will give designers options to create more novel mission mechanics by giving the mission scripting environment full access to the game's state, instead of the much more limited access the mission host had. For example, the physics host knows exactly where enemy combatants are, and what actions they've recently performed, while the mission host only knew how many combatants were alive in a squad and what that squad was generally trying to accomplish. In Beyond Light, we're only launching the foundation of this system, and we look forward to evolving and leveraging it in the future. What you might notice: the new scripting environment changed many behaviors in complex ways, and you will see interesting behavior changes or bugs in the pre-Beyond Light missions, and public events, and similar, that were originally built and tested in the previous system. We've tested these missions heavily and stamped out many bugs, but some will undoubtedly skip through, though we'll be monitoring and fixing the remaining bugs over time. In some cases, these issues were more severe. For example, they caused the Prophecy Dungeon to be unavailable temporarily. We're all excited for its triumphant return, slated for the end of this year. One of the cool new features in this area is face-to-face joins in social spaces, so you can now fire team up with tower friends without a long tower reload. So there's a lot of interesting stuff here, and hey, not having to reload into the tower to join a stranger's fire team is a great quality of life change. But the part that I want to focus on is where Dave said, for example, the physics host knows exactly where the enemy combatants are and what actions they've recently performed, while the mission host only knows how many combatants there are alive in a squad and what that squad's generally trying to accomplish. Now, that sounds like they're investing in a system that also changes the AI behavior, as the old system was limited in what it understood about enemy combatants. Now, how much smarter the AI will get, or should I say, how much more within the environment Bungie will be able to program the AI to do behaviors, remains to be seen. But I really do hope that the AI in the future does have more than I'm just going to stand there and kind of shoot in your general direction, or the very limited instant boss swipe mechanic, or the super annoying boss stomp mechanic. They also talk about how this system will allow us to have more diverse gameplay, so here's hoping for more menagerie or raid-like mechanics in story missions, strikes, or just out and about in public spaces. Now, in my original script, I had everything that Dave said listed and itemized with commentary. However, that would have been at least 1,000 to 2,000 more words, and I'm not about that life. So I TLDR'd all the important parts, past what I felt was necessary to be directly quoted. So as the article continues, Dave goes on to outline how they basically cleaned up Destiny's code and code base. Current builds can take up to 24 hours to compile. Now, they're down to 12. I don't think I have to tell anyone with a fucking pulse how awesome this is. Now, they accomplished this by, as I said, basically cleaning up the code by removing a bunch of dead content. And I assume, or at least I hope, they removed a lot of content that was built into the game, areas and locations that weren't necessarily finished or that had geometry, that were just kind of there. They existed because they existed. And you couldn't get to them, you couldn't access them as a player unless you glitched out of a map or something like that. But it existed and was rendered and was there just to be there, which makes absolutely no sense. And is infinitely frustrating as a player when Bungie's like, oh man, the game's too big, it just takes so long to do anything, our tools are not optimized, making content's hard, but we're gonna gut a bunch of content, even though, for some reason, we have all of Fellwinter's Peak playable in the game if you glitch outside the map, or under the arcology, you can go down and there's an entire city. Now, of course, these pieces of content are being removed from the game, so that's probably helping out a lot. But you see my point, there are places like this within the game that just makes no sense why they're there. David goes on to state that Destiny 2's installation size will shrink by 30 to 40% due to a combination of calling unused or replaced content, installation size optimization, and moving some of the content to Destiny's content vault. Again, this is great. Anything that streamlines the process of creating Destiny content for them, or Destiny patches, is amazing. It's welcome. We need it. We've needed it for years. Now let's hope we don't have to go 6 months to a year between balance patches and other bug fixes. The last item on the list is the fact that Bungie's going back and revamping the character creation system. It sounds like at first with Beyond Light, all we're gonna have is the default options that are currently in the game, but they're planning to expand them in the future, which is something we've needed since Destiny 2 released. There is also a caveat that your Guardian, when Beyond Light comes out, might look a tad different. Now let's just hope that the ability to recreate your character and character customization has absolutely nothing to do with the cash shop. Please and thank you. While it would be easy for me to make the snide remark about how these changes should have shipped years ago, the point in the shape of the tooth is they didn't. So better late than never. That said, it's one thing for Bungie to say that they've done all these really cool, amazing things with the engine, and it's an entirely different thing for them to utilize these tools or execute on this vision. Words are wind until proven. I distinctly remember Bungie saying when Destiny 1 was being developed that the Tiger engine was great, it was amazing, and it had all these tools for really quick turnaround. Womp, womp, womp. I also remember when Destiny 2 was being marketed, Bungie talking about changes that they made to the weapon system that allowed them to tune and iterate on weapons much quicker. And yet we get one balance patch maybe every 6 months to a year? But those are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Remember to like, but only if you did. Subscribe for more. Feel free to donate to my Patreon if you're feeling particularly generous. But above all else, stay frosty.